Okay, now we are going to learn how to create a web form. HTML form I used to collect data from users. You might have seen many of them on websites and different places like that. So when you are creating a web form, the first thing to declare is the form element. It is used to define the form. So when you are using the form element, note that the form element does not function alone. There are some other components that allows it to function. You can see the form now, we can't see anything inside. So now we are going to bring the input element. You see this input element is one important element when creating a form, and it is the most used element. You can use the input element in different ways depending on the type attribute. It has a type attribute. So let's come here and see what our inputs look like. This is an input element, and by default, you can type inside it because it is in a text format. By default, the type is in text format, but you still need to type it and say the type have to be in text, because what we want to create now is the first name input. So we are going to create a first name. So this is type is equal to text. So the next thing that will come in is the ID. The ID is an attribute used is used to uniquely identify an element. It is important to use it when you want to refer to a specific element in your project. So you see this ID, you can only have one ID because it is unique. So when you put a first name here like this, you can only have one first name. You can't go any other place and have first name. You see ID and class. So they are very similar in usage, but the class, you can have multiple classes. When you have a class and you name it first name, you can have another class in another place and name it first name. But for ID, you only have one first name. Even when you put ID somewhere else, you can't use first name. So you only use one ID when you are creating something. So the next thing we have is the name attributes. You see the name attribute, consider it as a unique identifier for a form control. When you don't put a name attribute in your inputs, it will not send a value. You do not put it, the value of the input field will not be sent, because this is what we tell the browser that where it will submit to, that this is first name. Where it submits to, when you name it like this, is going to tell them that it is first name. So that is why the name attribute is very important when you are creating a form. Now that we have our name attribute, the last thing I want us to include is the placeholder. The placeholder is what display inside your input feed so that your user can know what to input inside their text, their input feed. So enter your first name. So note, when you are creating your name like this, you make sure there is no space in between. So, but when you are creating a placeholder, since it's just something to display, you can put space. So this is enter your first name. So now another thing I want to talk about is the label. You see, the label element is used for labeling, just as its name implies. You know, when you are working in a laboratory, you have some specimen, you have to label them, specimen A, specimen B. So this one is for labeling also. I want to use it to label this input feed that this is the first name. So I want to tell our users that this is a first name. So now I have written a first name. You can see now this is a first name. So now this one is for the first name. I've used it to label this. So if we are going to, now the label and the input has no relationship, but to bind them together, we are going to introduce the for attributes. You see, the for attributes used in label tag should have the same value of the ID attribute used in the input element. The value for the input element is this F name. So that is what you must write inside the for. Then when you do that, it means you have bind them together, they are together. This for means it is for this ID, this unique identifier. So we have bind them together, they are together. Now your browser can interpret it that they are together. So I don't want them to be on the same line, so I will apply break to it. So now let's copy it and paste it for last name so that it make our work faster. Copy, paste. So now we are coming here, this inside this last name, we are going to say last name and change the for also to last name. So we have binded them together like that. So come into the label and make the label now that this is a last name. So our name here, we need to tell that it is a last name. The placeholder, so that our users can know what to input inside last name. So you can see they are stuck together because it is an inline element, is not a block element. So I need to break them. I'll come to this place and apply a double break so that it will be separate. Oh, sorry. So now I've applied a double break and they are now on separate lines. So this is where we are going to be stopping. See you in